Lance by Chance. The untold story of him wrestling as of on Earth. LanceByChance.com.
Fans, welcome back to the Working Fans Podcast. Earlier this week, we had a bonus episode previewing Impact Rebellion, even though it came out late.
Yeah, no, whose fault is that?
Just before the pay-per-view, and I was editing right down up until it started, and eventually you gotta watch the pay-per-view start.
You did get it on YouTube first, though. You did. We actually had it on YouTube, I think, before it started, right?
Yeah, because that's the easiest to trim. I don't cut all the ums and ahs out of that. That is just the straight, kind of do any of the video formatting issues that I've got and then get it up, because I did want to get it up for some kind of before the pay-per-view moment.
So if you fans think this will be up on time, I'll just tell you this. When I said to Joe, this is for tomorrow, he's already said, hopefully.
To be fair, we do have a live show after this.
I know.
And then tonight, loaded episode of MLW. AEW looks good too. Guys, wrestling is not letting up on us. And neither is the Working Fans Podcast.
We're the guest of honor, baby.
Because we are here to review Impact Rebellion 2021. Before we get into the show overall, what were your quick overall thoughts of the show?
I liked it. I really liked it's so funny. I think we were just talking about this before. Guy we do shows with sometime, Cage My IQ.
Dan Backley.
Dan Backley, yeah. He had brought up a good point to me that the Impact Tag Champions are from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and the Impact Heavyweight Champion is from AEW. And what an interesting development. And I was telling him, I think if Impact had a better channel, better clearance other than access, they, no pun intended, would make a better Impact. Because I really do think that they have a lot of interesting stuff going on right now. I think it says a lot about them that, hey, we're not afraid to do business with these companies, and we're not afraid to put other talent over. We're trying to create a good, interesting story here. And I think they are, if anyone gives them a chance. Now, there's some carny shit that goes on there, too, like all wrestling. But still, overall, very good show.
Yeah, now, this is the best, I would say, Impact has looked in a while. And, I've been a fan of Impact, but it seems like Impact's undoing is almost like when they print up the T-shirt with the roster on it, the roster has already changed. And it always seems like one thing or another happens with them. And that's why it seems like whenever anybody gives them a chance, they don't take them seriously because there is some flub. And I saw very little of that on this show, but let's get into the body of it. Matt Striker starts off this show.
Sleazy.
There's a good opening package, but Matt Striker gives you that killer intro where he just verbally introduces the show as soon as they hit the arena. And I thought it was a good way to get excited for what you're going to watch that night. Him and D'Lo Brown.
Needs a haircut, pal.
Yeah, that hair is looking wild. But first match on the show, TJP versus Josh Alexander versus Ace Austin for the X Division Championship. I honestly thought the 8-man tag was going to kick off the show, but this ended up being the perfect opener because very quick-paced action. These are three highly skilled competitors, and TJP, Ace Austin, no question about their athleticism. But to me, not just because he won, but Josh Alexander really stood out for some of the moves he pulled off, just the overall athleticism that he showed. What did you think of this
I
match?
agree. It's funny, if you go back to our preview, we both thought that they were going to keep the belt on Austin since he had just won it, and we thought maybe we'll see something with Alexander down in with the heavyweights. But obviously, their heavyweight picture right now at Impact is pretty loaded, and the X Division has that kind of thing where you can get around it. It's not weight limits; it's no limits. So it's interesting, and he looked good. It was a great match. I'm a big fan of Josh Alexander. I would say I'm such a big fan that I really do hope that we're going to see him down the road in that Impact World title picture in the next year, because I think he's just got tons and tons of potential. I mean, he can move, he can wrestle, he looks the part. I like him.
Like, he's been real solid over the last year as part of the North and the run they had, but seeing him in this solo role, I was like, wow, this guy could be one of those mainstays of the Federation.
Absolutely.
Now, the one thing I didn't make note of is who we picked in the preview.
We picked Austin. I remember that. I remember some of these. Maybe I'll remember them all as we go.
I was going to say there's a couple I remember because I had specific picks, but
there was two you differentiated on me that you were correct on, and then the only thing that you thought there'd be a fuck finish for the title match at the time.
Sure, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get on that. Yeah.
D'Lo and Matt Striker immediately after this match, they kind of do a quick preview of the rest of the night, what's coming up. Very stacked card. Now, that night, we were talking, and we talked over the Eric Young and Violent by Design promo, where it looks like Eric Young has his guys behind him, and he is talking to somebody. Now, we find out later who that is, but he kind of lets them know they've got like the specific vision. He's not in the group yet, but, you know, he fits what they're looking for. So that's why they've invited him. Right after that is an Eric Young, Violent by Design, James Storm video promo lining up this match. And one thing Impact has done well, I think we can say easily, in almost any of the forms that they've come back in, is their video packages are on point.
Yes.
And this really set up the match following it, which is James Storm, Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, and Willie Mack versus Violent by Design, Diener, Rhino, Joe Doring, and filling in for Eric Young, Morrissey, maybe W. Morrissey. He's referred to as a couple different things during this match, formerly known as Big Cass.
Yeah.
Before we get into the match, Dave, Big Cass's return, what did you think?
Actually, he was on SW Fury's pay-per-view the night before as XL Cass, which I thought was kind of a good name for him.
I believe that's the name he uses on the indies. I thought Morrissey was, even though it's his real last name,
sounds like a cigarette.
Dude named Morrissey that is a singer. It almost seemed like one of those things that even if it's not necessarily trademarked, I don't know why you'd want that confusion. Going back and listening during the match, D'Lo did refer to him as W. Morrissey a couple times.
Yeah.
His real name is William Morrissey. So I don't know if that's something that they're 100% set on yet. Probably Thursday on Impact, we'll see more how they're going to present him. But I was surprised that he came out with Violent by Design. You already have a giant on your team in Joe Doring. So
kind of watered down a little bit. He looked in super great shape. I'll give him that. I don't want to take anything away from him. But yeah, Joe Doring, he's a guy I want to see get pushed anyway. And now I fear that with two guys in there and this guy having, been in a national spotlight, Joe Doring might not get pushed. That's what I'm concerned about. We'll see how this all plays out. Overall, a good debut because it was what it was. It was an 8-man tag, so it was a good showcase. It's all going to be about what do we do next with these guys and how we're going to showcase them. I said it to you there. I feel like Diener is kind of the odd-looking man out. He just does not.
Diener is definitely the odd man out. Ever since they broke up that team, I saw Jake something on the Go Home show.
Mm-hmm.
Stacked. He looks
like he fits in with this group. Like
he
if you
looks
had
better
Rhino
coming out of that team than Diener. Diener just makes a weird face all the time. And I mean, Joe Doring is really the heart of the group to me. Rhino's not bad.
Rhino's a veteran. They've been around. I mean, it's just like if you had Jake something in there, you would have another monster though. Now you would have all these monsters led by Eric Young, who's like maniacal and that can like lead him in that talk and everything. And even though Rhino's not as big as these guys, he's always kind of had that monster kind of thing with the gore, and he's a thick boy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I think that that would fit well, but whatever. It is what it is. They got Diener in there.
In my notes, I said where Josh Alexander stood out in a good way in that first match, Diener stood out in a mediocre to not good way in this.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. The adding of Morrissey is actually the one thing, like, it makes Diener look worse. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Diener is only staying around because, as they said during the match, he was Eric Young's first follower. One thing that impacted that I questioned during the show was they announced that Impact is trending number 2 on Twitter, which it's funny because every time WWE announces it, they're always trending number 1. I mean, I think even when we checked, Impact was trending number 4. So it seemed like a weird boast, but I mean, it's Impact, so things like this are going to happen, I guess. Moments like this are less and less on this show. There wasn't as much that made you look at them and go, that's just Impact being Impact.
Yeah. Last, I think one of the big shows they had was you heard Josh Matthews yell, "Is there a sound guy? What's going on?" Did anybody do a mic check all day? And you could hear all this going on.
Yeah, and there were minor production issues, but not many.
Nothing like that. No,
thank God. Now, next up was the Myers versus Cardona video package, which everything they played, it seemed like they played video packages leading up to the matches. I was hyped for this match going in because, as everybody knows, these guys are friends for years. They have their own podcast. And the fact that they know each other, you almost expect that they're going to deliver a wild match. And I thought this match lived up to it. What was going on with Matt Cardona's entrance gear?
I didn't like his gear. I thought that was stupid as shit. I don't know what it was, like some friggin' Kmart, Road Warrior, Masters of the Universe, horns on his thing.
Yeah, he came out with horns on his shoulder pads, a cape, Nasty Boys inspired paint.
Yes.
The Nasty Boys part of it was probably the coolest. I thought it was weird entrance gear, but the rest of this match,
I didn't like the ending either, though. I thought the ending was kind of strange.
Well, we'll get there, but this was a hard-hitting match. Good action all through, considering they're friends. I mean, Cardona gave him the radio silence on the floor.
Yeah.
There was a lot of slamming each other into the guardrails. It was a very hard-hitting match, but bring up the end part of the match that kind of threw it off for you.
Yeah, because he ends up having a knee injury, which is like a work knee injury. But, I mean, they played that part pretty well. He took a pretty good bump. But then the referee acts like he's going to stop the match. And Myers is like, here, let's help him out. And then Myers hits his clothesline, for those who don't know, the roster cut, which is a pretty good name. And he got the pin. But it's like, why are we even stopping the match? I hate these kind of endings where we're throwing up an X like this is a real injury. And then it's all to set up another move, and the guy's just going to pin you anyway. Like,
The thing to bring up about that, Myers launches Cardona over his head. Cardona lands. We noticed his knee did something weird, which I don't know if you can work something like that, like doing that, but he went down. They act like the match is going to stop. Myers, I don't know if it looked like he was going to go over and help, but he went over. Something happened, and then he rolls up Cardona and it was almost like you couldn't tell if it was real, if it was fake. It led to Myers looking like a good heel. I loved it, but it just led to that little bit of confusion that you didn't quite know what was going on with it.
No, I mean, and by the way, this was one of the ones we differed on. Although I thought Myers was booked a little stronger in this. I figured that's why Cardona would get a win, but no, they're continuing to book Myers very strong in Impact right now. Myers is basically pretty much won all his matches in every little feud he's been in right now so far. So
I know. I
good.
thought Ogle was going to come out and fuck the finish, but it's good to see Myers go over. That's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Now, after this, we had Tony Khan backstage with Jerry Lynn, Tony Schiavone, and Aubrey Edwards. Scott D'Amore and Brian Hebner come in. And Tony Khan is the weirdest on-screen character. I can't tell if he's nervous, if he's just got some weird social skills. He talks in an odd way.
Yeah.
I did find funny is him calling out Brian Hebner as a ref and saying he wouldn't screw anybody.
Right.
Not going too deep into the whole screw job thing, but if you're familiar with who Brian Hebner is, who his father and his uncle are, it was an interesting segment. I thought it was a good representation of AEW on the show and introducing that second ref. I thought for sure a screw job finish was going to happen based on this interaction.
No, they kind of. I'm not going to do it now, but they kind of teased the screw job finish, but never went there. Like we thought that Kenny had a chair at one point, and Aubrey stopped it. And they never went with a screw job later on. So yeah, interesting setup here for the second referee with Aubrey. And yeah, Tony Khan is a heel at Impact. He's kind of an onstage character, which he's not in AEW, but. Yeah, he's weird. He's definitely I don't know. He is a heel though. Like he is definitely. I think you want to punch him in the face. So.
Yes. Now after this, there was a video package for the Fire and Flava match. Covered them. Then it talks Jazz's retirement, Jordan Grace, Rachel Ellering coming into the equation.
This was what we got wrong.
This leads us to the Knockouts tag match. Fire and Flava versus Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering.
Yes.
Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering, like I've seen Rachel Ellering live. Her and Jordan Grace are such a physically imposing team once you see them in the ring and once you see them next to Fire and Flava. Solid action in this match.
Yeah.
I think the four of them really held this down fine.
It was good. It was good. Like I said, we got this one wrong. We thought for sure that it was going to be a good debut for them, but they weren't going to take the belts off of Fire and Flava already. But they did. They did, and I'm glad they did because once you got to look at Rachel Ellering with Jordan Grace, and it's like, oh, these two gel really well together. They look like an imposing force. They look like a female Road Warriors or Steiner Brothers team. And yeah, I was very happy they did put the belts on them.
Yeah, there was only a couple minor botches on Ellering's part, but I mean, this is her first time on really American TV. They made a point to say that she went over to Japan to get her experience. So I've got no real complaints. Following this, there was a video package from Trey Miguel and Sami Callihan outlining their match. This was the match that I didn't have a ton of excitement for.
They delivered.
It was going to look good, but they more than delivered. There was some. Miguel took some hellacious bumps. He was thrown to the floor early in this match, landed on his back. He went through the ropes to the barricade, landed on that. Power bomb on the backstage box. Slam on the upside down table where he was like on the legs of the table with his back.
That's the first.
Pile driver on the edge of the steps / the edge of the ring. There were a ton of spots in this, but Trey Miguel barely wins by standing up. This was the first last man standing match where I thought they really did a good job of having them kind of race to stand up and the difficulty within.
Yeah, but by the way, I don't know if we're going to put this on YouTube, but I just noticed it says Impact Rebellion 21 preview. I don't know if you wanted that to be review, but
yeah, that's supposed to be review, but
that's right, man. Fuck it. we're not perfect.
We're about
We lay
20
ourselves on
minutes
the line
in.
for you.
We got what, maybe 14 minutes to our live show.
That's right, baby. We got about 14 minutes sleep. Oh, hey.
I was gonna say, to be fair, I did just wake up maybe 10 minutes before I messaged you.
I've been staring at my phone screen for a while too. I think both our eyes look like we've been hanging out with Snoop Dogg for a little while.
Channeling our inner Matt Riddle, if you will.
Yes.
That is a Randy Orton quote. If
Yes,
you
it is.
haven't heard Randy Orton on the Kurt Angle show, that was a really good interview, I thought. But let's get back
to that. Yeah.
Review.
Tremaine Miguel, Sami Callihan, you talked about that. And I'll just quickly say, for me, right up there with the X Division and the main event. I mean, it was one of my favorite matches of the night. It is in that top 3. There were a lot of good matches, so it's almost hard to pick one. But that was good. I really enjoyed that match.
Yeah, now Rich Swann did a backstage interview kind of hyping, you're coming into my house, like really setting himself as the Impact champion. Following that was a Finjuice Good Brothers video package. Now Good Brothers versus Finjuice for the Impact Championship. I thought this was a wild match. Now Gallows entrance gear, red leather jacket, that like hat, leather hat,
his danglies, as he likes to say.
Weird entrance gear, but this match lived up to everything you could hope. Finjuice kept the title, which I think is good for that kind of relationship with New Japan.
Sure.
That keeps those channels flowing. And could that be another belt that Kenny Omega goes for next? We will have to see.
We will have to see. I was a fan of the match. Thought it was solid, and unlike you, I was a little more surprised at the ending. I thought for sure Gallows and Anderson were going to walk away back with the straps, but I was not disappointed. I like the booking here, so good job.
Now we have a backstage interviewer going to interview Kenny Omega, but Don Callis comes out, says he's getting ready for his match.
So good.
Don is willing to take the interview, cuts a little promo. Then we go to a video package featuring Deonna Purrazzo talking about her retiring Jazz, lining up how Tenille got in the match, and our second to top match, Deonna Purrazzo versus Tenille Dashwood for the Knockouts title. Tenille showing off some real wrestling skills in this match. I thought she was impressive. I don't think Purrazzo needed all the outside interference she received to look strong, but maybe that was to make Tenille look strong. I thought it was odd, but Deonna pulled off the win as I thought she should. And then Taylor Wilde came out at the end. I'm not familiar with her at all. I haven't kept up with a ton of Impact over the years, maybe within the last 5, but she was all new to me.
Yep, she's been in Impact before. Actually, believe it or not, AJ would probably know the most out of her. He was watching Impact around that time period because we've all kind of gone in and out of Impact over the years. And I think he is familiar with the Taylor Wilde years. But that motherfucker ain't here. So instead, I'll just tell you I've heard good things. I think she was a firefighter in her time off. I saw an interview with her recently. I want to say it was Sunday Night's Main Event. And she seems like an awesome person behind the scenes. So great to have her back. I can't wait to see what she does in this already loaded women's division. I didn't care for her theme music. I remember I heard some of it. I thought it was like some Barbie doll kids bubblegum shit. But that was me. Oh, one thing I will say, Rachel Ellering, I mean, you had commented not a lot earlier in Big Stage. She was in the Mae Young Classic a few years ago, and she did.
Oh yeah, she has announced and done some matches in NXT. I think she's done some in Impact as well.
She even did an AEW Dark not too long ago, recently. So, but yeah, cool to see Rachel Ellering get her moment of spotlight. And segue back to this match, I'm excited to see what Taylor Wilde does because I have not as familiar with her work either. And man, Impact has got a strong women's division.
All right, now to finish this up real quick, we had a video package showing us that the next pay-per-view is Under Siege, Saturday, May 15th. Against All Odds is after that, June
Yes.
12th. And then Slammiversary is in July. This is important to note because there was Samoa Joe imagery in this commercial.
Oh, yeah, among others.
Yeah, I was going to say somebody else I didn't
They
recognize.
had Okada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I missed that one too.
So, yeah, they're previewing some big things or potentially.
This is kind of like last year. This is what they did last year too. Remember, WWE released a bunch of people, and then
Yeah.
they started like hinting at that. It's like got to be a yearly thing. WWE fires some Impact's like, we got you.
So now the video package before this Rich Swann, Kenny Omega match, just highlighting the match, showing all the stuff they've done on TV. And the main event of the night, Kenny Omega versus Rich Swann, title versus title. Going in, this had a big fight feel. Dave, we are up against the live show right now. So you give us a quick rundown on what you thought. I'll give us a quick rundown.
Absolutely.
And then we will close this preview up and get on to big business tonight.
Important thing we have to note: Mauro Ranallo was here to announce and commentate the main event. He added so much to this. He made this feel so much more special. And I think the idea of having Mauro maybe come in and do a few of these main events once in a while would be something really, really cool. I think he added great energy and just a ton. And also, at the end of the day, I thought Rich held his own. He looked good, but I also thought we saw why Kenny Omega is indeed one of the best in the world. And gotta strap that title on him, baby. Go all the way.
Yeah, like this had a big fight feel. I don't know if it was title versus title, the way they did the ring entrances. Either way, big match, good back and forth. I think they had enough believability in there to make you think Rich Swann could win.
Yeah.
But in the end, Kenny Omega hits him with the one-winged angel, becomes our Impact and AEW champion. And this basically kind of leaves the bigger question, which if you're listening to this, we will have talked about on the live show the night before. Where do we see Kenny Omega going from this? Where do we see Impact Wrestling going from this? But fans, thank you for joining us for this Impact Rebellion 2021 review. Even though it says preview, fuck a graphic on the screen. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Shout out to my girls.